Mile 22 is alright. It had a lot of okay things about it, like the character development. I was really invested in some of the characters, like the guns. The guns were in a lot of shots in this movie. Yeah, there wasn't any character development. Plenty of opportunity for it, but there just wasn't follow through. God knows why. And from a perspective, there's credence to the argument that development isn't necessary, especially in an action movie. The movie, after all, is supposed to take place over the course of one day, but that's not how Mile 22 starts. Mile 22 starts like many action films with an event in the past followed by a jump to the present. I'll veer from spoilers until later in the video when I'll get into the plot more closely, but the bare essentials you need to know is that it's flawed. Kinda like a car made with tires out of soccer balls. Your friends may think it's a fantastic idea, but you know it means you need new friends. Probably more sober ones. And not to shit on it entirely, I did enjoy it for the most part. Like, mainly just the middle, like 40 minutes were good. Like, yeah, 40 minutes. I think that's fair. The action was good. The cast was good. I liked Mark Wahlberg, Iko Uwais, Ronda Rousey, Lauren Cohen. Everyone acted well and performed well, particularly Iko, who is the best performance and scenes out of anyone in this movie. If you ignore the constant cuts and shaky cam, that is. If you don't want to be spoiled on Mile 22, skip to the timestamp on screen right now. Okay, get ready kids, because we're peering right into this incomprehensible shitstorm. The opening that I just talked about does have two important things that happen. The first of which is the death of one of Overwatch's operators. The main characters in the movie, Alice, played by Lauren Cohen, grabs the ring off the finger of one of the operators that were killed in a frenzy before evacuating the building they were raiding. The implication is that they were in a relationship, but we never see anything from their death impacting her. So maybe it was she wanted to give the ring to his wife. Except again, we never see anything to show that. This leaves the option that the relationship is the only possibility given the spotlight and prominence they show in the scene. But they never go through with it. It feels like all these characters are just there, that they don't have any actual human characteristics to them. The second one is right before the end of the flashback raid scene, and we see an 18-year-old Russian jump out the exploding building the Russians were using. Mark Wahlberg's character, Brian Silva, then walks up and requests permission to kill the kid. His boss says yes, and he kills him. Then we cut to 2 years in the future, after a rather stylistic opening title, which is a neat way of broaching the backstory for a special agent like Silva, and I kind of preferred it in some ways because the movie, if it did focus on his backstory, it wouldn't have been as good. It is incredibly short, but I don't think that really affects it. It's kind of a mess either way, but this way, it gets into it a lot faster. With the way it did this, it does greatly highlight the fact there was like no character development, and all of these people are the same from beginning to fucking end. So after all that, we're then introduced to the main plot of Mile 22. Silva and his team of operators, who now work at the US Embassy in Southeast Asia, they're searching for a nuclear powder that went missing, and when their source, Lee Noor, played by Iko, walks in saying he wants amnesty for the remaining locations that they need, he's interrogated by them. And after a brutal fight scene, which is really an assassination by the, again, indeterminate Southeastern Asian country, they agree to take him. The fight scene was fairly enjoyable, but like everything in this movie that is good, it's completely lost because of the constant shaky cam and cuts. It was a very poor decision, in my opinion, to add that many cuts to make it seem more fast-paced, especially with an actor like Iko Uwais, who was very good at hand-to-hand combat scenes. After all this, we enter the 22-mile-long trip to the runway that Overwatch embarks on. It's basically the only entertaining part of the movie, and even then that's a stretch. Wahlberg's performances are good, but ridiculously overdone throughout. The fight scenes and shootouts in this are good, but as I just said with Iko Uwais' fight scene, they're fucking ruined because of all the cuts. And even then, as bad as that is, when there's nothing really going on in the movie, your eyelids feel like they're about to shut on you. At the core of this movie, it does have an intriguing plot, but it has absolutely no payoff, and that ruins so much of this movie for me. But more importantly, structurally. The ending is beyond disappointing. It tries to connect the beginning of the movie to the end, saying that the 18-year-old Russian was a child of a high-level Russian who wanted to kill Overwatch for what they did, not even killing Brian Silva, who did kill the kid. Now I'm sure you're thinking, wow, that's a fucking massive plot hole, why would they do that? Good question. They want to make 3 Mile 22 movies. This was known from the beginning, and that's why it's so messed up. This thing is unfinished for the fucking sake of having a sequel. And had they not done that, I'd have given this movie not necessarily a pass, but yeah, okay, I'll watch the next one. But instead it falls apart in the last 10 minutes into the most anticlimactic and dissatisfying mess of a film I've seen this year. Actually, Red Sparrow, that was way fucking worse. Action movies are fun movies. It's just a matter of fact, and if your action movie isn't enjoyable, you did something wrong. And Mile 22 did that. The climax and final act is just pitiful. Taking into account the acting, the setting, overarching plot, the ending, and shooting itself, as well as Mark Wahlberg's natural aging, I give Mile 22 a 5 out of 10. On one hand, I recommend Mile 22 for the sheer fact that seeing Mark Wahlberg in as serious a role as this is enjoyable, and he does it very well, and I do genuinely like the character of Brian Silva and think he has a lot of applicable situations they can put him in for future movies. I don't really think it's that worth it. Because in the end, he just plays a severely less autistic version of Ben Affleck in The Accountant, which I would strongly recommend in stark contrast to this movie. If you know of a cheap theater, it might be worth it. Overall, though, I wouldn't suggest it. It's a waste of money, in my opinion, especially with the other movies out right now. So yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the video, so make sure to comment that. I'm also thinking about making a Christmas line of merch. So if you have any favorite quotes you'd like to see on a sweater design like that, feel free to comment that below using hashtag Christmas merch. And if you like the video, make sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure to subscribe. And hit that bell icon to turn on notifications. And of course, I have merch, so if you want to get that stuff, the link is in the description below. I personally recommend the premium tee option. It's obscenely comfortable, and if t-shirts aren't your thing, don't worry, we've got sweatshirts, hoodies, women's t-shirts, mugs, and plenty more. The link for that and everything else you'd need is in the description below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. If you'd like to have your art featured in a video, draw me or one of my wondrous characters, such as the majestic Chad the Sad, and tweet it at Tahukan TV on Twitter. Huge thank you to Patreon supporters Anonymous and Matt Porter. I really appreciate it.